You know, there's an old saying I like to live by. If you don't have anything nice to say, start a podcast. If you don't have anything nice to say about somebody, say it on the internet so everyone can hear it. That's gonna be my new motto. We got a lot of mottos around here. We got Mark K saves the Republic, right? That's the title of the show, and then there's subtitles or mottos. Our main motto is saving the Republic and having fun doing it. That's a great one. Another motto is best gosh darn podcast in the universe. I just actually came up with that one. And our new motto is if you don't have anything else nice to say, then listen every single day at 1 p.m. Eastern time, noon Central. What? This is so very. I'm already having a good time. You know what? I'm already having a good time, and I thank Chuck Schumer for that because, man, not only is that guy old, but he sure is stupid, huh? It's amazing how Chuck Schumer is old and selfish and weak and spineless and also stupid. So those are all great things from that. Makes my job a lot easier. But anyway, listen, if you're new here or if you've just stumbled upon us for the first time, we appreciate it. We hope you didn't. We hope you didn't hurt yourself when you stumbled upon us. But also, we want to make sure that you can come back again and again and again and again and again because we're here every single day. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're setting those notifications. Make sure you let YouTube and Rumble and X and Facebook and Google. Google? Is anyone listening on Google? Maybe it doesn't matter where you are, wherever you happen to be. Make sure that you're telling them you like this content, you want this content, and you better get this content, or else there's going to be hell to pay, or else you're going to complain to the Senate Judiciary Committee that there's censorship, gosh darn it, in the social media realm. And we won't stand for, oh, what happened there? Look at that. I hit my table and I changed my camera. How's that happening? That's amazing. Hang on. Let me go. Let me see. Oh no, I just destroyed. I don't even know if there we go. I hit my table so hard that I changed my camera. What is, oh no, I got the overhead camera too. So you're getting a little look at my workspace. But anyway, listen, we got a lot to get to. First of all, President Donald Trump is in the midst right now. Where is it? Hold on. I got like 5 things going on at once. He's in the middle right now of one of those very lengthy cabinet meetings he likes to hold.
As a group with Steve and
they go around
Jared
the table. They all talk
Marco
about everything going on, and there's a lot going on today, which we'll get to here. Let's just listen in for a second.
Many, unfortunately, were dead, but we got many back that are now living with their families, with their parents in many cases, and with their husbands, families, wives. Many of them, they celebrate all over. They're the ones that are celebrating the loudest. They're all over. There are a lot of them that we got out. But the last 20, and I always said the last ones are going to be the most difficult. But it's been a very big deal getting the hostages out. But the rest is going to take place too.
Yeah, that's President Donald Trump, and he's discussing the massively historic deal yesterday that he drew up between Hamas and between Israel, and with the help of all the other Arab countries in the region in the Middle East, to secure the hostages, to start an immediate ceasefire, and to make sure that that peace is restored in the Middle East after, well, thousands of years.
Mr. President, excuse me, what kind of security guarantees is the United States going to make for Gaza?
Well, we're going to work with very wealthy countries that love people, frankly. I know them very well. They love people, but they love Arab people, and they love Muslims, and they love, I think right now they love everybody, and they're immensely wealthy, and they're going to be involved in putting up money, and for them it's a small amount of money. For somebody else it's a large amount of money, but you know, these are the wealthiest countries in the world, and they'll be very much involved in making it as good as possible.
And what's your take now on a two-state solution, sir? Just to follow up on that.
On what?
What is your view now on a two-state solution today?
I don't have a view. I'm going to go with what they agree to.
Mr. President, given that there are some tough provisions for Israel in this agreement, are you at all concerned that Bibi Netanyahu may not continue in his post and be deposed?
That Bibi may go a little bit out of whack?
But he may no longer be Prime Minister.
Look, that's politics. It could be. I don't know. I think he's very popular right now. He's much more popular today than he was 5 days ago. I think. Right now, I think maybe people shouldn't run against him. 5 days ago, it might not have been a bad idea. No, Bibi's become. This has been a very good thing I don't think he did it for that reason. Okay, but I think just looking as an analyst would look at this, I think Bibi should be very popular right now. Yeah, please.
What will happen if Hamas says that it cannot locate or was not able to find all of the deceased hostages' bodies within the time?
Well, we'll have to see. I think that's going to be
It's all
largely
Donald Trump trying
answered.
to.
We
Donald
know
Trump
where-
is soliciting hypothetical questions from the media, which are their favorite type of questions. But he's saying, "Look, here's the deal. We have this hostage agreement, which we'll get to here in just a minute because it's the big news of the day. We also have some big news about Chuck Schumer being stupid. And like I said, we're gonna check back in periodic. It seems like they could be wrapping up when President Donald Trump turns to the media and starts taking questions like this. It seems like it could be at the end of the meeting. Everyone has already got. Like I said, this thing's been going on for 2 hours already.
And so I don't think it's going to be overly big. The situation with the bodies, they say 20, 28. Some are going to be a little bit hard to find, but we're going to do the best we can. Yeah, please, behind you.
They don't have final
Yeah, behind you.
timeframe.
Please.
Thank you, sir. Regarding Jared Kushner's role in the negotiations, can you explain a little bit about why he came on at the last minute? And then in regards to the WIC program that the Vice President mentioned, do you know when the funding that you promised through the tariff revenue will actually go through to communities? Because there's reports that WIC providers are actually setting to close down today.
Well, okay, let me just answer the Jared. So Jared's a very smart guy. He did the Abraham Accords. As some people say, the Abraham Accords, which I love the way that sounds. But he did the Abraham Accords. It was a great thing. 4 big countries joined. If I were president, if the election would have been a correct election, which it wasn't, you'd have every country in there. Maybe even Iran would have been in there, frankly. But you'd have every country in. Now, by the way, that's going to be filled up rather quickly. People want to join the Abraham Accords. And I put Jared there because he's a very smart person. And he knows the region, knows the people, knows a lot of the players. And the combination of him and Steve Witkoff and Marco and Cooper, who is, as I hear, has been fantastic, and others that were involved. JD was very much involved. I mean, we had a very smart group of people working. We had a lot of different players, different countries, and very diverse countries, very different from each other. They had certain things in common, but they had a lot of things, mostly things that were not at all common to their countries. So we had a very smart group of people. These are high IQ people. Okay, I talk about how many low IQ people we have in our government. We got some real low ones, but some shockingly low. But these are very high IQ people, and that's what we want. I like high IQ people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Donald Trump, by the way. And this Jared Kushner question keeps coming up over and over again because son-in-law. Also, they believe that he has financial interests, and they think that what's happening is that he's getting paid off somehow for his involvement in getting peace in the Middle East. But really, he's just one of the most well-versed in the region, has contacts in the region, knows the region, and of course was the architect of the Abraham Accords. Why wouldn't you use them when you can? Well, listen, we'll check back in here in just a minute, and I do have some clips that I want to share with you that are poignant to this historic agreement. This is a war that has been raging for thousands of years. Now, yesterday we spoke with Dinesh D'Souza, which is just not only is he a great guy and an intelligent guy, speaking of high IQ, but it's a really fun name to say, Dinesh D'Souza. And he has this great movie. It ended its theatrical release yesterday. It's now going to be streaming, but it was all about the prophecy. And we talked about Netanyahu. He actually interviewed him for the movie. We talked about how the prophecy in Israel was coming true. And wouldn't you know it, roll in the next day, Donald Trump, or really later that same day, Donald Trump announces this amazing peace agreement in the Middle East. And this peace agreement in the Middle East it is something that, again, has been raging for thousands of years. Dinesh D'Souza showed how Samson was the first Israeli captive taken by, the Palestinians, and how the Palestinians or the Philistines were the same as the Palestinians, and the way that they parade around the hostages that are now being released is the same way they paraded Samson around 2,000 years ago. None of this is new. The Revelation chapter 12 with the dragon in the sky, with the 7 heads and the 10 horns, with the water coming out, all of that is explained as the prophecy and revelation coming true in modern day Middle Eastern warfare. And now here comes President Donald Trump, the peacemaker, and It's really, I mean, it really is. It's truly, as he said, it's a monumentous breakthrough.
You know, last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be, but we are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, and that'll be a day of joy. I'm going to try and make a trip over. We're going to try and get over there, and we're working on the timing, the exact timing. We're going to go to Egypt, where we'll have a signing, an additional signing. We've already had a signing representing me, but we're going to have an official signing.
Donald Trump saying, look, it's monumental. We're going to get the hostages back. You don't even want to know what they're going through or what they've been through or where they are, but we're going to get them back. We're going to get back the living hostages. We're going to get back the remains of any dead hostages. That's part of the agreement. There's going to be Palestinian prisoners that are going to be released back into Gaza. All of these things are going to happen. And then, as you just heard Donald Trump talk about, he's got a coalition of very willing Arab nations, very wealthy Arab nations that are going to reinvest in the rebuilding of Gaza. And when you invest billions of dollars in something, you're not going to let it fall into war. That's one of the key components. That's one of the things that President Donald Trump said. In fact, he told Sean Hannity last night, let me share with you the coalition of Arab nations.
Well, I develop relationships with people, and sometimes those relationships lead to great things. And in the case of many of the Arab nations, the wealthiest nations in the world, if you look, although with what we've done in the United States, I think we top everybody by a lot.
Yeah, but he says, look, we brought the world together, and now Gaza will be safe and peaceful.
Well, Gaza is going to be a peaceful, much safer place. Obviously, it's been blown to pieces, and this is just not by Israel. This is over years and years and years. It's been heartache for many years. A lot of people say this is a deal for 3,000 years. So whether you say 500, because some people say 500 based on events, but other people say this is something historic for 3,000 years. There's nothing ever going to be bigger than this. And so Gaza, we believe, is going to be a much safer place, and it's going to be a place that reconstructs, and other countries in the area will help it reconstruct because they have tremendous amounts of wealth, and they want to see that happen. And we'll be involved in helping them make it successful and helping it stay peaceful, but I think it's going to be peaceful. I think.
Yeah, do you remember Donald Trump? About a couple months ago, he had a big press conference. Bibi Netanyahu was here, and he said, I have a dream for Gaza that we level it. We fill in the tunnels underneath. We clear out all the debris, and we rebuild, and we turn it into, quote, the Riviera of the Middle East. And he released this AI-generated video with a Trump casino in Gaza and dancing girls on the beach, and people were driving around in Mercedes-Benzes and wearing Rolexes, and it was amazing looking. And everybody scoffed. Everybody laughed. The media, they held Donald, their contempt for Donald Trump could not be contained. And they thought he was joking. And they're like, Donald Trump wants to turn Gaza into the Vegas Strip. Or even worse, I guess would be probably more like Atlantic City, which is probably, that's what, nothing worse than Atlantic City. But again, that's what his vision was. And now we start to see that it's come true. How does it come true? Well, Qatar, one of the wealthiest nations, Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates, all of those, Saudi Arabia, all of the places Donald Trump went and visited. And again, they made fun of him for that. They ridiculed Donald Trump and complained about and criticized Donald Trump for visiting nations that were Muslim nations that they said had terrible, horrible, no good, very bad abuses against humanity. But they also had lots of money, and they have a lot of play and power in that area. And Donald Trump knew that if any deal was going to be made in the Middle East with Israel, with Gaza, if anyone else was going to join the Abraham Accords, it would take all those nations. And if they were going to rebuild Gaza, it would take a lot of money, and not just money from the U.S. But now everybody's going to be invested in Gaza. The Europeans are going to have investments in Gaza. Germany and UK and France and Italy, the entire Middle East will jump on board. Iran may even build some stuff in Gaza if they ever get some more money. And the United States of America. I imagine China I imagine China, one of the wealthiest countries in the world, is going to want to have a little piece of that pie too, and Donald Trump's going to make a deal for that. And of course, Israel, which means if you have a strip of land that every country and every continent and every major economy in the world has invested in, nobody is going to blow it up. Nobody is going to wage war. Nobody is going to let the terrorists, the jihadis, they're not going to let them take it over because you protect your money. And that's been the big problem with Gaza. There's no money there. There's no investment. It's been a barren wasteland that nobody wanted to get into. And what happens? You know, it's like the empty lot in downtown Jacksonville, right? Where I'm here in illustrious Mar-a-Lago at K-Trade HQ in downtown Jacksonville, and it's beautiful. But if you head to other parts of the city where there is no construction, there is no investment, where warehouses and buildings have shut down and become dilapidated, what happens? It's crime, there's drugs, there's homeless people, there's issues. But if you go down near the stadium where the Jaguars just beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football in one of the weirdest and most ridiculous looking football games ever, if you go down there, they're putting in a Four Seasons and they're building another hotel over here and they're going to build a brand new museum for kids so there's something to do, and there's apartment buildings going up and there's investment in those places, and there's not going to be any crime or drugs or homelessness. Why? Because people protect their investments. So the key to a safe, secure Gaza is to get rid of Hamas, get rid of the terrorists, level the place, and rebuild it. Donald Trump said that. Everybody laughed. And today, ain't nobody laughing because Donald Trump just made history. And he did it. He did it. Yeah, sure, peace is great. Yeah, sure, nobody wants anybody killed. But he did it because he offered people an investment. He offered all of these countries an opportunity to work together, to invest their money and to make more money and to be part of something amazing. And Donald Trump knows that, yes, these sheiks and these sheikhs and these kings and these emirates and everybody else, they're all, religious leaders, but they're also businessmen. And when you appeal to somebody's capitalist tendencies, you tend to get them to move. And that's why this happened. Donald Trump actually said, look, it was a couple things. Not only was it this coalition, there were three things, okay? There were three big things that Donald Trump did that allowed him, that allowed him to make this peace agreement. The first one was the coalition of Arab nations that he was able to put together with his negotiating skills and his business investment and his dreams of the Riviera of the Middle East. The second one was tariffs.
You know, having the ability to deal with trade, having the ability to use tariffs to help me make a point. The tariffs have brought peace to the world. I'm telling you, they brought peace to the world. And not only here, but with so many other deals. You know, I've made 7 peace deals where countries were, in many cases, 30, 31 years, 135, 137 years. They've been fighting and millions of people being killed, and I brought peace. And I did it through, in not all cases, but probably in at least 5 of the 7 that we've done so far, it was through trade. That we're not going to deal with people that fight. We're not going to deal, and we're going to put tariffs on you. We're not going to let you deal in the United States. We'll put tariffs on you. And without that, without the tariffs, I mean, far more than even the money that we're taking in, which is trillions of dollars, essentially trillions of dollars, far much more importantly, it gives you a tremendous road to peace and the saving of millions of lives, just millions and millions of lives.
Look at that. By putting tariffs on all these other nations, by tariffing these countries that we do business with, by charging them to take advantage of the American economy, not only has Donald Trump brought more money into the United States of America and been able to rework various different trade agreements with various different partners who may or may not have been taking advantage of us because of our weak leadership prior to President Donald Trump coming back to office. Not only have we been able to use that to rebuild infrastructure and, keep the WIC program running when Chuck Schumer and the Democrats shut down the government, not only have we done all that, but guess what else we did? We saved lives. We ended wars. We had a bargaining chip that we could use to get these coalitions of countries together to end the war in the Middle East. So you got a coalition of Arab countries, you got tariffs, and there was something else. What was that third thing? Oh yeah, bombing the snot out of Iran. That was the third thing that made this possible.
It was about 1 month, maybe 2 months away from having a nuclear weapon. And if I allowed that to happen, this deal would not have been possible, or if it was, it would have a tremendous cloud over it, because you'd have a country with a nuclear weapon that was not obviously very friendly. And the power of nuclear weapons is something that we shouldn't even be talking about. It's so massive. And so by doing that, we now have something where actually Iran and a number of people have been talking about a deal, but it's a very much different Iran. And frankly, we've had some very good conversations. And as you saw, they blessed the deal. They put out a few hours ago a statement that they agree with the deal and they blessed the deal. That's a tremendous thing. I believe if they had a nuclear weapon, it would be a whole different. Even if we made the deal, it would have a very dark cloud over it because of what could potentially happen. So now there are no dark clouds. We're going to have peace. And by the way, I believe Iran's going to be actually a part of the whole peace situation. But countries that frankly didn't get along, they're all involved, and it's brought the whole world together. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really wild. It's really cool. It's really amazing. And I'll be honest with you, it's something that only President Donald Trump could have done. And that's not my words. That's the words of, well, pretty much everybody else. Everybody else in the room with him today. Everybody else was saying, in fact, or is it Marco Rubio? Listen to Marco Rubio. This is what he had to say about the Gaza deal. Wait a minute. Hang on. Here it is. One bum.
You know, I don't know if one day perhaps the entire story will be told about the events of yesterday, but suffice it to say, it's not an exaggeration that none of it would have been possible without the President of the United States being involved. It really began with your trip to the Middle East, where these relationships were forged with partners in the region, personal relationships, close relationships that created the foundation where all this was possible. Where I think this really took a turn. Remember, a month ago, no one thought this was possible. Where it really took a turn about a month ago, less than a couple weeks ago, is when we were at the United Nations, and you convened a historic meeting, not simply of Arab countries, but of Muslim-majority countries from around the world, including Indonesia was there, Pakistan was there, and created this coalition behind this plan. Then on that following Monday, you met with the Prime Minister of Israel here, and that plan was presented. And then, of course, our great negotiating team followed up on it. In the interim, again, perhaps the stories will be told, perhaps they will never be told. The President had some extraordinary phone calls and meetings that required a high degree of intensity and commitment, and made this happen. And I think what's important to understand is that yesterday what happened was really a human story. There's a geopolitical aspect to it, there's no doubt about it. It creates the conditions for Gaza to one day be a normal place again, and people to have a better life, and Israelis to be safe. But yesterday was a human story. And because of the work you put in, and honestly, not only is there no other leader in the world that could have put this together, Mr. President, but frankly, I don't know of any American president in the modern era that could have made this possible. Because of the actions you have taken unrelated to this, and because of who you are and what you've done and how you're viewed. And this weekend, because of that, at some point very soon, we are going to see 20 living human beings emerge from the darkness into the light for the first time in 2 years. And that is because not only were you used the credibility and the power and the prestige of this office and the relationships you created, and you committed yourself to making it happen. And I think it will go down as a historic moment in the history of our country, and something our country should be very proud of. That we have a president that's committed to not just peace, but to the human aspect of reuniting these families. My last point on this is, just a couple of days ago, Secretary Lutnick hosted us all, many of us, at the Kennedy Center. And we have these families, we've interacted with them for so many years, for 2 years now. And the stories are heartbreaking, both whose families are alive and those who are deceased as well, who want their relatives back so that they can complete the process of grieving. And we had all hoped that perhaps that was the day that we would have an announcement for them on the anniversary of the 7th. But I know you were able to speak to some of those families last night. And I just hope the whole nation understands how incredibly proud they should be of their president and of their country for the role that they've played. And I don't want to let this moment pass, Mr. President, without also noting the incredible work of Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They're an incredible team working together, facing some substantial impediments to even being there this weekend and doing it. Let me just leave it at that. And they've done a great job on your behalf, Mr. President. They deserve a tremendous amount of credit. But thank you for what you've done for the world. For the world.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, maybe one day the entire story will be told. Maybe one day we'll hear everything about the days and what happened. But just for now, we know that, in fact, it's incredible because even CNN, even Caitlin Collins is singing the praises of this deal. Here's CNN. Here's Jake Tapper trying to spin this as a negative, as saying, well, it's not as great as we think. But Caitlin Collins defending President Donald Trump, something she hates doing.
Obviously, blessed are the peacemakers indeed. But it is worth pointing out, this is a ceasefire deal, right? This is not a larger peace deal about a Palestinian state of any sort and who gets to rule a Palestinian state and Israel gets security guarantees, how, and all that. That is still TBD, right?
I mean, yes, but, because the yes, but part of that is that, yes, this is the first phase of this deal where the two key parts of that was a ceasefire and the release of the hostages and also the release of Palestinian prisoners that are being held in Israel.
Yeah, but, look, Jake, as much as you're trying to make this a negative, it's actually a positive. And there's other folks on CNN who are, Jeremy Diamond, for example, on CNN is saying this is monumental.
I just need to underscore what an enormous moment this is for so many people in this region, for the people of Gaza who have endured 2 years of war, for the families of these 48 remaining hostages who have endured 2 years of absolute agony. This is a watershed moment.
Yeah, watershed moment, ABC.
For Israel, make no mistake, this is a huge night, potentially the end of the nightmare. For the people of Gaza, this is going to be an enormous relief. For the people of Israel, potentially the end of a 2-year-long nightmare.
And for these families still waiting for the remaining hostages who are still alive to come home, this has been an agonizing wait. And of course, the families who will get the remains of loved ones who died while in captivity.
Yeah, and by the way, we have video of Howard Lutnick with the families talking to President Trump.
All right, hold on.
He's got the phone out.
President
the families
Trump,
are there.
You have the best crowd in the world. What do you guys have to say to President Trump? Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
You did it.
You did it. Thank you. Thank you.
This is amazing. Mr. President, we believe in you. We know you've done so much for us over the past, since you became a president, and even before that. And we trust you fulfill the mission until every hostage, every 48 of the hostages are home. Thank you so much. Blessed be the peacemakers.
God bless you, Mr. President.
God bless you, Mr. President. That's the consensus of all of the families, all of the people who have hostages being held, all of the people who are, around the globe, who are just flabbergasted and gobsmacked that this thing happened and that Donald Trump made it happen. If he doesn't win the Nobel Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize is done. If Donald Trump doesn't win the Nobel Peace Prize after this, then there should be no more Nobel Peace Prize because it's pointless. It doesn't matter. It's hype. It's obviously political. No one should accept a Nobel Peace Prize after this if they don't give it to President Donald Trump, because no one has ever been more deserving. Not Barack Obama, and that dude apparently got one. Speaking of people who are undeserving, Chuck Schumer, the architect of the Schumer shutdown, said something yesterday which I can't believe he said, but also I totally can believe he said. Chuck Schumer said, every day the government gets better, or every day the government shut down. Well, here, you know what? I'll just let Majority Leader Thune tell you.
In an interview posted this morning, the Democrat leader said, every day gets better for us. Every day gets better for us. Mr. President, this isn't a political game. Democrats might feel that way, but I don't know of anybody else that does. Mr. President, the longer this goes on, the more the American people realize the Democrats own this shutdown.
I thought he was going to say something other than shutdown there. The government's own this, the Democrats own this shutdown. But that's exactly what he said. In fact, he said it here. Here it is. Here's the actual article. It was in Punchbowl News. Punchbowl News. Why Schumer thinks Dems have momentum. Democrats lean in. It's day 9 of the government shutdown. There's no resolution in sight to this crisis. When you take stock of where things stand, it's not difficult to see why House and Senate Democrats feel good about their strategy for now. It's important to note that Democrats instigated this shutdown. They rejected a clean funding proposal and demanded significant and expensive healthcare policy changes in exchange for their votes. But as we enter the second week of the standoff, Democrats are nowhere close to buckling. In fact, top Democrats feel like they're gaining political momentum. We interviewed Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer on Wednesday in his Capitol office, where the New York Democrat was as bullish as he's ever been about this shutdown strategy. Quote, "Every day gets better for us," Schumer asserted. Every day gets better for us. The Democrats have shut down the government. They're costing people billions of dollars. American military men and women are not going to get paid tomorrow. And Democrat leader Chuck Schumer says that's good for us. Every day that Americans go without pay, every day that our military and our air traffic controllers and our government officials and officers, every day that they have to work without getting paid, or they stay home without getting paid, or every paycheck that they miss, every tourist attraction that is closed, every airport delay, every $4 billion that's spent, which is what happens every single day. We lose $4 billion. Every single penny, it's better for us as Democrats. That's what Chuck Schumer said.
This latest from Chuck Schumer. I mean, I really can't believe this. Chuck Schumer just said yesterday that every day that the government stays shut down is better for us. Ainsley, my question is, who is us in Chuck Schumer's mind? Is it the military that is working without pay overseas?
Terrible quote.
Is it law enforcement that is not being paid while they're being attacked in Portland, Oregon? Is it the air traffic controllers and that system that is not functioning right now and people are being delayed all over America? No, I can tell you who us is. Us is Chuck Schumer and his political career in New York State, because if you polled it right now, he would lose to AOC in a primary. This is all about Chuck Schumer's political future in New York State, and he's holding the United States of America hostage. It's ridiculous, and I'm shocked to hear a comment like that.
Who was it?
How
Nancy Pelosi said it's a day at the beach for Republicans. They love this.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not at all shocked. But Chuck Schumer, first of all, this is what all Democrats believe. All Democrats believe. They orchestrated this shutdown. This is the Democrat shutdown. It's the Schumer shutdown. The Republicans came to the table with a clean CR in the House of Representatives, a clean CR that wasn't really good for Republicans because Thomas Massie didn't vote for it. It maintained Biden-era spending levels. Think about that. Biden-era spending levels maintained by the House of Representatives. That was their negotiation. That was their nod saying, okay, look, we need more time. We need till November 21st. We're going to go ahead and we're going to keep the government open, and we're going to do it at the current Biden level of spending. And the Democrats, who have no power in the White House, who have no power in the Senate, who have no power in the U.S. House of Representatives, who have no power in the Supreme Court, they said, this is our only chance. What we can do is we can say no. We can vote against this CR. We can hold the line. And in doing so, we can peel back all of those things that we got, that we had to give away, or that the Republicans won in the big, beautiful bill. All that money that they saved the American taxpayers by getting illegal aliens off of Medicare. All of that money that they saved American taxpayers by ripping away all of these bogus dead people on our Social Security rolls. There was waste, fraud, and abuse that the One Big Beautiful Bill helped to weed out and erase from our budget, and the Democrats won all of that back. Why? Because they were the ones benefiting from it. And now they say, great, we're going to keep the government shut down. And think about this. What do they have to lose? When you have nothing to lose. And so they're saying, we'll just keep the government shut down as much as we possibly can. We'll keep the government shut down every single day. We just won't vote for this CR, and we'll hang it on the Republicans' heads until we get what we want. And what are we going to do? Lose the White House? We already lost the White House. What are we going to do? Lose the Senate? We don't have control of the Senate. What's going to happen? We're going to lose the House of Representatives? They don't have the votes in the House of Representatives, even with Republicans quitting and getting thrown out by their own party. Even with losing special elections, they still don't have the majority anywhere in government. So they have nothing to lose. And Chuck Schumer's sitting around now thinking to himself, and they all think this, by the way. Again, this is how they all think. Every Democrat is the exact same way. They all think, man, this shutdown is great for us. But only one of them is dumb enough to say it. And that's the same guy that puts the cheese on the raw side of the cheeseburger. This is the same old coot who forgets to flip the burger before he puts the cheese on it. Chuck Raw Meat Cheeseburger Schumer. Chuck, there's so many different names. This is the same guy who openly threatened Supreme Court justices on the steps of the Supreme Court and then turned around and said there's no place in America for political violence. It is. Even Donald Trump mentioned it today in his cabinet meeting.
But Chuck Schumer proclaimed this morning that every day gets better for them. No, every day it's actually getting worse for them. And they're having a rebellion in the Democrat Party because they want to stop. And if you saw all of Schumer's, I watched last night like 10 different times over the years, he said, you can't shut down government, you can't shut down. And now he's the one that shut it down. So this is a confession that he's acting not to serve the people, but to serve the partisan interests of his party.
That's a great way to put it. It's a confession. It's like we put, here's the thumbnail from today. I heart shutdowns. Chuck Schumer. If you ripped open his shirt, which I would never advise anyone ripping open, it's probably really bad under there. But if you ripped open his shirt, it would say, I heart shutdowns. And they all do. Every one of them loves a shutdown. They're loving it. They don't care about the American people. We know they don't care about the American people because, well, they're the ones that let millions and millions and millions of illegals in the first place. They're the ones that opened up the border and allowed drug dealers and murderers and thugs and gang members and human traffickers to just wander on in. And then once they got here, they put them on planes and gave them free trips wherever they wanted to go. And if they wanted to go to New York, they gave them free hotel rooms and vouchers for food. It's really insane how great the Democrats made, how comfortable they made the illegal immigrant population. And so more and more aliens came to the United States of America. And that's why Donald Trump is in the White House now. He was elected to get rid of the illegals, to solve the problem, to resecure the border, to begin this most massive deportation effort that we've ever seen in American history, to fight the crime, to get the drugs out, to restore the economy, to restore law and order and common sense. Oh yeah, and to cut the government waste and spending and fraud and abuse. And that's basically that's the Democrats' whole platform. Government spending, waste, fraud, and abuse. Out of control government spending, waste, fraud, and abuse. Basically, when Donald Trump said, I'm bringing in Elon, I'm bringing in Russ Vought, we're going to doge this joint. When he said we're going to cut down on government spending, waste, fraud, and abuse, what he was really saying is we're going to cut down on Democrats because that's their whole policy. And we know that's their whole policy because Chuck Schumer said this shutdown is great for us.
In an interview posted this morning, the Democrat leader said, every day gets better for us.
Man, I'll tell you, you know who's having a great day today? AOC. Because Chuck Schumer, this guy, I don't know how he got to be this powerful. I don't know how somebody with such horrible political instincts, somebody with such a ridiculous grasp of reality, I don't understand how you can do this. This guy is the highest ranking Democrat. Think about what this says about the Democrat Party. You want to talk about a crappy party? You want to talk about the worst party in the world? The leader of the Democrat Party right now. Not the metaphorical, not AOC, not Jasmine Crockett, not the PR, TikTok, online, Instagram leaders of the party, but the actual elected. If you looked at the hierarchy of the Democrat Party, the highest, let's see, president, nope, that's a Republican. Vice president, also a Republican. That's how that works. Speaker of the House of Representatives, sorry, that's also a Republican, sort of. House Majority Leader. Nope, that's a Republican because the Republicans are the majority. All right, House Minority Leader is a Democrat. Senate Majority Leader is a Republican. Senate Minority Leader, finally we get to somebody. The Senate Minority Leader is the highest ranking position the Democrats currently hold, and it's held by Chuck Schumer. And this guy, number one, can't even stand up to his own party, can't come to the table, can't push back the left-wing lunatics the TikTokers, the clickbait, brigade, the squad, if you will. He can't hold AOC at bay. He can't hold Bernie Sanders at bay. They're out there running around, running their mouths, riling up the left-wing lunatic fringe of the Democrat Party. They're out there funding Antifa. They're out there pushing their way into ICE facilities, acting a fool, threatening Marco Rubio and threatening Ted Cruz and threatening Elon Musk and just saying stupid stuff. All of these folks, they're out there doing it every single day. Chuck Schumer can't handle it. Hakeem Jeffries has zero power over any of these people. And so what we're starting to see now is the end of Chuck Schumer's political legacy. AOC is popping bottles, as they say, because with this latest turd that Chuck Schumer just stepped in, his career's over. His career. He was worried about getting primaried by AOC in 2028. I think that he should just retire at this point. Nobody is going to vote for this guy. First of all, he's old as dirt, and he's just getting older. What do we say he was? 78? Hey, Siri, how old is Chuck Schumer? 74. So he's 74, which means in 2028, he'll be 77. And if he runs for another 6-year term, he would be 83 if he wins by the time he retires or is up for re-election. 83 years old. We do not need any more octogenarians in our Congress, especially someone. And this is the other thing that they love. This is the new. I love what the Republicans are doing. The Republicans are doing great stuff. First of all, they're sticking together, which you rarely see. But they have this great new thing where every time they talk, the thing they do now is they all mention how old they were when Chuck Schumer first got to Washington. And the latest was, where was it? It was not John Thune. Here it was. I think it was Mark Wayne Mullen.
This latest from Chuck Schumer.
No, that's Bill Haggerty.
I really can't believe this. Chuck.
I got Mark Wayne Mullen here. Mark Wayne Mullen was on somewhere, and Mark Wayne Mullen said, every day, maybe it's here.
We're still in the Schumer shutdown. The Democrats could open this thing up in 5 minutes. There's plenty of Democrats that actually want to vote for this, but you have Schumer, who's a career politician. I bring this up all the time. He was in the House of Representatives in '96, and he wasn't a new senator or representative then. And I was still in high school, and that was 3 decades ago. You have a guy now that's afraid of his own election because he's afraid of AOC. What's interesting, though, Liz, is he's not even up for re-election until 2028. But since the polling came out in March, after he voted for this same CR right now that we're voting on, which is a clean CR, meaning there's nothing new in it that we changed. It's exact same language that he voted for in March. He also voted for it in January. He also voted for December. The difference is the data show that AOC would beat him by 20 points. So where we're at today is we're stuck. And here's what we think is happening. There's a No King's Day rally going to be held on the 18th, which is not this Saturday, the following Saturday. What we have been told by several Democrats is they're planning on reopening the government after the 18th because they don't want to be chastised during this big rally that's going to be happening here in D.C. And what's crazy about that is that people that's going to have to be guarding that rally, the No King's Day, are going to be working without pay then because the federal employees are going to miss their pay on the 16th if the Democrats continue to shut it down, and the military is going to miss their pay on the 15th. But hey, it's not really about fighting for the American people. It's about pandering to this Marxist jihadist left that's running the Democrat Party now.
Okay, so so a lot of good information in that clip, by the way. So you got Mark Wayne.
The Schumer shutdown.
You got
the Democrats could open.
You got Mark Wayne Mullen out there, and he's saying, and this is what I love. We heard it the other day from the other guy. This is what I love. Now they say Chuck Schumer, who's been in Congress since I was in diapers. Chuck Schumer, who's been in Washington. This is how they're pushing it. They're trying to let you know this guy is overdue. He's expired. His born on date, you got to throw him out with the trash. They're now attacking him as one of these career Democrat politicians who is fighting for his political life. Why? Well, because he doesn't want to get elected. He doesn't want to get primaried by AOC. And also he has nothing else to do. Clearly his home life is suffering because he doesn't want to retire and travel around with his wife. He doesn't want to stay at home and barbecue because he doesn't know how to do that. All he knows how to do is put on this suit and hunch his back and wander on into Congress every single day and make your lives miserable. So he wants to do that as long as possible. Chuck Schumer was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1980. 1980. he was elected he went to Washington, D.C. in 1980 as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives from the state of New York. To put that in perspective, I was still in Canada. I moved here in 83 when I was 8 years old. So it's really, I mean, when this guy was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, I was a 6-year-old Canadian kid riding my bike through the snow saying A. And now I'm 50, hosting one of the top 1% of podcasts in the entire country, and he's still in the same, okay, he's in the Senate technically. He served 18 years in the Senate, in the House, and then moved to the Senate in 1998 when I just graduated. Okay, I didn't just graduate. I'd been out of college for a little bit, but still, it doesn't matter. It's a long time, is what basically the gist is. It's way too long. It's now 2025. There are other people who are qualified to do the job that Chuck Schumer doesn't want to do, and that is lead, that is govern, that is represent the people of New York. If you polled the people of New York, because remember, I'm running for Congress, so I know what it's all about. Mark K for Congress. It's not just a cool hat. It's a thing that's actually happening, and I have a website to prove it. If you go to markkforcongress.com, let me just prove this to you because I want everybody to know. It's legit. Go to markkforcongress.com. Here's what you're going to see. You're going to see this website, right? There's a place for you to make a donation, which would be very, very helpful because we are kind of a grassroots candidate. But you're going to see all their videos, everything that we stand for here. But we have events, for example. We have events coming up tonight. I'm going to be at the Clay Young Republicans on October the 9th. But one of the things that I understand and look, here's all the voters that have, by the way, if you want to endorse me, I would love, here's what you do. If you live in my district, Florida's 5th district, if you live in Florida's 5th district, I want you to go to Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are, wherever you're watching, especially if you're on Facebook, if you're on Rumble, wherever you are. And I want you to write me a 2-line endorsement. Like, for example, this one's from Jackie Lundy, who writes, he stands up for our country, he stands up for our Constitution, he stands up for what's right. He has a very compassionate quality, especially for kids. He's a family man and just a good guy. He knows the Constitution and loves this country. We could not have a better person representing us. Jackie, that's amazing. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I will do my best to live up to that. Here's what's going to happen. When you do that, I'm going to put them all on my website here. I'm going to take your photo. I'm going to put up your name. I'm going to use your quote. And I just want this website to be like miles and miles of endorsements from people who matter. And that is the voters. But the point is, what Chuck Schumer is forgetting, what all these Democrats is forgetting is they are not in Congress for themselves. Their job as a senator, as a congressperson, as president of the United States, your job is not to secure your job. Your job is not to go to work every day and say, what do I need to do today to make sure that I don't get fired or thrown out of office or primaried? That's not your job. Your job is to represent the people who put you in place in the first place and put you in a position of power. And I know a lot of people in New York State. I know a lot of people around New York State. I have relatives in New York State. Just a few years ago, we went up to New York. We went to upstate New York, right outside of Buffalo. And we had a family reunion. One of my wife's family members has an amazing farm, lots of Jack Daniels, and we cooked chickens in trash cans. It was a hoot. We had such a blast. I guess it was turkeys because it wasn't chickens because they were bigger. But anyway, the fact of the matter was, those are the people that Chuck Schumer represents. And he's forgotten that. And those are the people whose jobs are affected by the shutdown. Those are the people whose flights are delayed by the shutdown. Those are the people who will not be getting paychecks because of the shutdown. When you are an elected representative in the House of Representatives or a senator, your job is to represent the people that hired you. And I guarantee that the people that hired Chuck Schumer in New York half a century ago, those people are not better off today. Every day it gets better for us. Does not mean the people in New York State who elected Chuck Schumer to the House of Representatives and elected Chuck Schumer to the Senate and for some gosh darn unknown reason elected him over and over and over again and kept sending him back there to ruin our lives. Every day gets better for us means Chuck Schumer and the elected Democrats, not the people of New York State or anyone else in the country who relies on the federal government for anything. which last time I checked is basically everybody in the United States of America. Speaking of New York, I just want to play this clip because it's kind of funny. Zohran Mamdani was at I think it was in Staten Island. Zohran Mamdani got booed and yelled at and it just totally abused at a campaign stop in Staten Island.
I don't know if one day perhaps the entire story.
Wait, that's not it. That's Marco Rubio. Hold on. I got Mamdani. For some reason, my clips got mixed up today. I'm going to have to yell at my producer. Oh, wait, that's me. Here it is. Listen to this.
Sorry, I want something to eat. I would like something to eat. Let me tell you something, man. You are not welcome in this island. October 7th, Jew hater. You fucking Jew hater piece of shit. Hey, Mr. Mamdani, can I talk to you? This is my island. You're not welcome here. Fuck. Excuse me. You hate Jews. You hate this country. You hate this. Big shot for the Tom Holman. Don't throw. Go home.
Boo! Boo! By the way, I'm pretty sure that's Scott Lobadeo or Lobadeo. He's the guy that paints all the amazing America. He was on stage with President Donald Trump, and I'm pretty sure that's him. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it was other people there in the restaurant and they were all booing him down because they don't want a communist running their city. Unfortunately, that appears like exactly like what they're going to get. And if they have a communist running their city, it's eventually just going to end up like it does in Portland. And in Portland, you have a mayor who lies to government officials. You have a mayor who lies to Homeland Security. Kristi Noem, she was given a report in the cabinet meeting minutes ago. Listen to what she said.
Well, sir, thank you for your leadership and for deploying all of government to help us keep our country safe. You have talked extensively about how threatened our ICE officers are, but all of our law enforcement out there. And we saw the shooting in Dallas at that facility, so we're hardening all of our buildings and making sure that we have more security measures, snipers on the roof, people to protect our law enforcement while they're out there on the streets. But what I'm also doing, sir, is, and with your authority, is we're purchasing more buildings in Chicago to operate out of. We're going to not back off. In fact, we're doubling down, and we're going to be in more parts of Chicago in response to the people there. And then I was there a few days ago and looked at some facilities that we can deploy more law enforcement out of. Because what they're trying to do with these riots and violence is distract us and keep us from going after those murderers and rapists that are out in the streets. And then I was in Portland, went out and back on Tuesday and met with the governor, met with the mayor, met with the chief of police and the superintendent of the highway patrol. They are all lying and disingenuous and dishonest people because as soon as you leave the room, then they make the exact opposite response. So we're looking at new facilities to purchase. They're in Portland too, and we're going to double down. And I told them if they didn't meet our demands for safety and security on the streets and work with us, then we were going to bring in more federal law enforcement. So I want to thank Pete and the Department of War for all their help. They've been fantastic. But
by the way, I don't know if you caught Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick and I would be best friends. He laughed. Like no one else laughed. I laughed when I first heard that because Kristi Noem, she's giving her a little speech, right? And she's like, oh, here's my update. I went to Portland. I met with the mayor. I met with the governor. I met with the chief of police. And they all lied. And when she said that, Howard Lutnick, let me see if I can go back to it. He just laughs, which is exactly what I would do. I'm shocked more people in the cabinet room didn't laugh at that. That maybe it was like, of course they did. Like, he's like, yeah, of course they're all a bunch of liars. But that's how you know who your people are. When people laugh at the same things that you laugh at, that's how you know who your people are. And Howard Lutnick obviously is my person. Look at this.
While we fight litigation, safety, and security, they're in Portland too, and we're going to double down. And I told them if they didn't, superintendent of the highway patrol, they are
here it is.
All lying and disingenuous.
You can see his little head. He goes, I guess Pete Hegseth also chuckled. So between the two, so what would happen is if I were ever in the cabinet room or if I ever found myself in the White House, I would sit with Pete Hegseth and Howard Lutnick because apparently they find what I find funny. And like years ago, we were when my kids' school when they were in middle school, we came back one year and, they have like an orientation, whatever. And we're sitting there at orientation and every parent is in the gym and we're all in the bleachers. There's like, I don't know, like 900 parents sitting there. And the principal comes out and he gives his little spiel, and the assistant principal comes out. And then the head of like the PTO or the PTA or whatever it is, they had like some parents association. And she comes out, she grabs the microphone, she goes, "Hi guys, we have some updates to the parent association. Last year, we found that instead of, getting productive in our meetings and having conversations, what happened with the parent administration or the parent teacher administration was that we found a lot of people were bickering or complaining about various issues in the school. So we've made some changes this year. We've disbanded the parent teacher association." And I laughed out loud because that struck me as funny. They didn't like that people were arguing with them, so they just said, "You know what? We're gonna ixnay this whole thing," which I'm all about because it was a private school and you can do whatever you want. But I laughed out loud, and it's in a gymnasium, and I'm not a quiet person. And fun fact, I was apparently the only one that saw the humor in the situation. So immediately, the principal, the vice principal, the PTA lady, and every parent except for my wife, who put her head in her bag, looks at me, and I go, "Oh. Sorry." But I mean, how ridiculous. "Hey guys, we had some problems with the PTA last year. Apparently too many teachers were complaining, or too many parents were complaining, which basically you guys were so complaining that we just decided there's no more PTA. We're just going to handle everything internally," which I guess it still makes me, that was like 7 years ago. Still to this, I'm always the one that laughs loud and at inappropriate times. And I usually am the only one that ends up laughing. That's why people, it's so weird. When I used to work for the liberal communist radio station, they would have meetings all the time, and I wouldn't go. And then they would say, "You need to come to this meeting." And I go, I'm not like a meeting person. They're like, we need you at this meeting. We need your input. And I go, fine. So I would go to the meeting, and somebody in the meeting, this happened every single time. Somebody in the meeting would say something, and I would think they were kidding because it was so ridiculous. They would say something so ludicrous and ridiculous and just lacking in common sense. I would just laugh out loud, or I would go, "Ha!" or, make some kind of, verbal thing. And they would all look at me, and someone would get offended and people would get embarrassed. And I'd be like, "Oh, you were serious about that dumb thing?" And, that was just like my thing. And then they would yell at me, and I would be like, "You told me to come to the meeting. I told you I didn't want to be there. You made me come, and now you're mad that I was there?" No wonder that whole industry's in the toilet. No wonder no one listens to the radio anymore. Podcasting, that's where it's at, my friends. Podcasting. Pam Bondi also talked about the ICE raids and protecting Americans from illegal thug aliens.
Despite the Democrat shutdown of our government, our law enforcement officers are out there working without paychecks, round the clock, to keep and make America safe. Secretary Hegseth and I were recently in Memphis. We had 1,100 law enforcement officers in one room with us. The Memphis PD, they were the happiest to see us, don't you think, Secretary Hegseth, of anyone. We had ATF, DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshals. I'm not sure if our park police were there. We had Treasury, Secretary Bessent, and of course we had Secretary Noem's Homeland Security, all working together with the Guard. They were so happy to have us there. We've been making arrests left and right. So far, we made 562 arrests and seized 144 illegal guns just in the short time we've been in Memphis.
And many of these people are career criminals. And when you take them out of a place, your crime rate just goes down. These people commit crimes every single day. They're sick. And we're taking them out. In some cases, we're bringing them back to their countries where Biden allowed, with the stupid open borders that we had in our country, to come in. But they're being brought back to other places, or they're being put in jail, but they're career criminals.
President Trump, last night alone, we made 91 arrests, 19 firearms off the streets, and one was a warrant for a homicide, and 4 sex offenders who had active warrants. One was a sex offender on a child. Everything we did in Memphis was worth it, in my opinion, for that one arrest. Think about that. We got a child rapist off the streets, but yet we've made 562 arrests and still going strong in Memphis. Just what we did in D.C. But it's because it's all of us. It's a team working for you to make America safe. all together round the clock.
I want to know, by the way, who does the seating arrangements for. I have to imagine the seating arrangements for these cabinet meetings. I have to imagine that they go along with the news cycle, because there were some meetings where Kristi Noem was right to the right of the president, or 2 steps over from the president. Pam Bondi was 2 steps over from the president. But in this particular meeting, of course, Donald Trump is flanked by Sec War Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. This is, of course, a monumental day. They're talking about Gaza. He needed to have Rubio right there. I guess he needed to have Sec War Hegseth right there as well, because there is going to be a military aspect of this. Also, he is, of course, part of the coalition, as Pam Bondi talked about, to keep everybody safe. But Pam Bondi is on the exact opposite side of the table. I think she's not been feeling well. And I think she maybe was like, I don't want to be on camera. She's been on camera a lot this week, right? You can tell she's coming off of like a cold or a sore throat or something, menopause. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, she's been kind of, when she was at the Senate hearing, I mean, she handed it to the Senate. She handed it to the Senate Democrats, but you could tell that she was giving her all the energy she could have. So maybe she was like, can you please put me on the other side? But I don't know. That's just a side. That's just something I think about. Who comes up with whose job is it to figure out where people sit? But she's right about it. She's like, look, in Memphis, we've got the police chief and we've got the governor and we've got the senators, and everybody is thrilled that we're there. And as a result, we're able to get things done. We're able to get guns off the streets and drugs off the streets and child rapists off the streets. And those are 3 things you don't want on the streets, or fun fact, anywhere. Okay, I want guns, but not on the street. I want them, I want the one right under my desk. I want the one in my car. I want I got them all over. Pretty much, I'm always within a few feet of a loaded firearm. I just want you to know Mar-a-Lago is not a gun-free zone. I just like to remind everybody of that. But the fact of the matter is, you want the guns, you just don't want them on the street. Drugs, I'm not a drug person, so get those out of here. And of course, child rapists, nobody should want those. Nobody should want those. Democrats do, though. It's really weird. It's really weird how, and this is a bizarre thing, because Democrats are anti-gun. They hate guns. They don't want you to be able to buy a gun. They don't want you to have a gun. They think that the Second Amendment is the worst of all the amendments. They want to come to your house. Beto O'Rourke wanted to personally come to your house and door knock and grab all of your guns. If you have a gun, they only want you to be able to shoot 1 bullet at a time, because Joe Biden said, how many bullets you need to shoot a deer? 1. Okay, I'd like to see Joe Biden shoot anything with 1 bullet, except his own foot. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. Joe Biden, if he had 1 bullet, he's like Barney Fife. Joe Biden was the Barney Fife of presidents, right? He had a gun and he had 1 bullet. Oh, Andy. And he'd put his bullet in his little revolver and he'd go out there and Mayberry and try to keep the peace. That's how Joe Biden was. He had 1 bullet in his gun, because that's all you need. How many bullets do you need to shoot a deer? 30? Then you're not a very good hunter. Doesn't matter. You have the right to not be a good hunter, Joe Biden. That's actually one of the unwritten rights in the Bill of Rights. But I digress. I've even forgot what I was talking about. Oh, yeah. But now all of a sudden, the Democrats are pro-gun. Pam Bondi's like, we've got ICE agents. We've got National Guard troops. We've got them in Memphis taking guns off the streets. And the Democrats are like, get them out of there. Get them out. We've got ICE agents. We've got National Guard troops. They're taking guns off the streets in Chicago. And the Democrats are like, no, we want those guns on the streets. Now, all of a sudden, the Democrats are pro-gun? How does that happen? It's because the domestic terrorists are pro-gun. It's because the domestic terrorists are pro-drugs. It's because the domestic terrorists are pro-rapist and murderer and carjacker and human trafficker and criminal and thug and alien. If the domestic terrorists are for it, so are the Democrats. And it's not just me saying that. It's White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's Miller time.
Well, look, I hate to say it, Sean, but Democrat leaders are siding with the domestic terrorists. Antifa is waging, as I explained in that clip you played, daily violent assault against ICE officers. They are attempting to physically prevent ICE officers from doing their jobs, using every means imaginable, including, of course, as we saw just a few weeks ago, attempted murder. And then we saw a few days ago another attempted murder through a vehicle ramming attack. It is unceasing. Day after day, night after night, Antifa terrorists, as was explained to the event in the White House today, are trying to kill ICE officers, attack ICE officers, threaten their families, dox them, and do everything in their power to try to prevent Immigration and Customs Enforcement from getting violent criminal aliens out of this country. Now look at what happened by contrast in Washington, D.C. When President Trump's program was put in place, when local leadership embraced the Trump plan, the Trump program, what happened, Sean? It's never been more peaceful. People have never felt more free. As President Trump said on your show tonight, they're going out to restaurants, they're going to monuments, they're taking lovely strolls in the evening with their loved ones. The only people who have lost are the criminals, the gangbangers, the drug dealers, the criminally illegal aliens. The Trump plan has brought historic safety to one of the most violent cities on earth, Washington, D.C. That's what President Trump wants for Chicago. That's what he wants for Portland. That's what he wants for Los Angeles. And yet Democrats are on the side every night of the gangbangers, the predators, and now even the domestic terrorists.
The Democrats have a problem. All right, the Democrats have lots of problems. Actually, hold on. The Democrats have a multitude of problems. Many, millions and millions of problems. One of the biggest problems the Democrats have, probably the biggest of all the problems the Democrat Party has right now, the biggest problem they have is that the game has changed and they're still playing from the old playbook. They believe, as they have for decades, that happy, content, safe, wealthy people won't vote for Democrats. Democrats have nothing to offer happy, safe, wealthy, content people. That's why they've always tried to keep people unhappy and unsafe and poor and discontented. That's why they rabble. That's why they rouse up the rabble. That's why they tell people, that's why they jack up the economy and jack up prices and tax people out the wazoo. They want to keep them unsafe. They want to keep them poor. They want to keep them unhappy and discontented because then they can go in and say, the Republicans are the problem. Donald Trump's the problem. Donald Trump is in the charge of the White House. The Republicans are in charge of the House and the Senate. It's their problem. Vote for Democrats. Meanwhile, it's the Democrats that are keeping these people unsafe and unhealthy and poor and discontented and unhappy. And people have realized, they figured it out. They understand. The people in Washington, D.C. have woken up. They realize they don't have to live that way anymore. They can still live in a blue city and be safe and be happy and not have homeless people doing drugs on the street with needles hanging out of their arms or getting carjacked in the middle of the night. They don't have to worry about youth gangs trying to beat them up and steal their wallets. They don't have to worry about break-ins. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You can live in a blue city and still be safe as long as you have law enforcement that's walking around the streets doing their job. That's the problem with the Democrats. The game has changed. Donald Trump has changed the game entirely. They're still playing by their old playbook. If the Democrats wanted power, they would work with Donald Trump. Any Democrat who invites President Donald Trump into their city or into their state to clean it up, I mean, what do you got to lose? Certainly not your election. Any Democrat who works with President Donald Trump to, I don't know, open up the government, you're going to get, I mean, that's what the majority of people in this country want. What Donald Trump ran on, what Donald Trump offered, what Donald Trump is doing, the majority of people in this country are in favor of. His approval rating is higher than any Democrat. It's higher. It's a higher approval rating than Gavin Newsom or Jabba the Hutt, JB the Hutt, whatever his name is, Pritzker, any of these people. Kamala Harris, forget about it. I mean, Kamala Harris, think about this. Think about what happened last night. President Donald Trump scored a historic agreement where he got the nations of Qatar and Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Turkey and all of Europe and Israel and Hamas, a group of known terrorists who hate the Jews and hate Americans and want all of us dead. He got them to all come together and strike a peace deal to release hostages, which was their only bargaining chip. He denuclearized Iran, and he's now going to have massive investments in an area that has been basically a sand trap for decades. Kamala Harris would never have been able to do that. If it were Kamala Harris, war would be raging full on. Full on stop. Netanyahu would be bombing the snot out of Gaza. People would be dying left, right, and center. Iran would still have nuclear capabilities. They might have already released a nuclear weapon. And all the Arab countries would be ganging up on Israel. And Kamala Harris would be ignoring them because that's what the Democrats do now, because they've sold out to the pro-Palestinian faction of their party. It would have been a mess. Thank God, actually, for Kamala Harris, because if they had a candidate that actually was maybe even somewhat decent, it would have been a lot harder. It would have been a much tighter race, even with Joe Biden destroying our country the way that Joe Biden destroyed our country. Listen, we got a lot more work to do, and that's why I'm fighting to head to Washington, D.C. in 2026 to fight back against these ludicrous, lunatic, domestic terrorist-loving Democrats. Stephen Miller's right. We need more Stephen Millers and fewer, well, John Rutherfords. John Rutherford, the guy who's currently in office, he's one of those let's reach across the aisle and negotiate with the terrorist type people. I don't negotiate with terrorists, and neither should you. Neither does Donald Trump. Neither does Stephen Miller. That's what we need. We need conservative voices, not just here in Florida's 5th District, but in every single race. The conservative voice must win. The combative, constitutional, conservative voice must win. Not a should win, a must win, not a gotta win. Absolutely, it's imperative that if you live in a blue district, you need to get a conservative in that spot. If you live in a red district, you need to make sure that the person you're sending there is a combative conservative. Otherwise, you're just sending some rhino that's going to reach across the aisle and vote with the Democrats half the time. We got to get rid of these people. It's going to take some help. So if you can go to markkforcongress.com and click one of these buttons that says $25, $50, $100, $500, whichever button you prefer. If you want to click the $3,500 button, we will take it. But anything at all that you can add to the campaign will be helpful, because it's crunch time. We're getting to the point in the campaign where it's make or break, and we're going to need investment. We're going to need volunteers. We're going to need word of mouth. We're going to need advertising, and we're getting it all out. I'm going out tonight. Look, if you go to my website, you'll see that we have some events, and we're going to need more events. I have an event tonight. I'm going to be speaking to the Clay Young Republicans at the Orange Park Country Club at 6:30 p.m. So if you're a member of the Clay Young Republicans, or I don't even know if you have to be a member, come on down. October 23rd, I'm going to be at Pusser's Bar and Grill in Ponte Vedra Beach. November 6th, I'm going to be at Megyn Kelly Live at the Moran Theater. This is how we're getting out there and meeting the people and talking to the people and letting them know what our goal is, what our strategy is, how we can help keep America amazing and fight back against these lunatic liberals who are trying to destroy it every single day. But we need your help. markkforcongress.com. There's a link in the description of this video. So if you're on YouTube or Rumble, you can just click that link. And like I said, anything at all that you can do would be helpful. And if you're like, Mark K, I can't do anything right now, just keep listening. Subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to this feed. Set the notifications. Join us every single day, because there's so much more to do. We got so many. There's more training. There's more information. There's more entertainment. Things are happening every single day. We've got to get this government open. We've got to make sure that we've got the right factions in place. We've got to make sure that we've got a warrior mentality, because every day is a battle to protect the constitutional conservative values that our country was founded on, to protect our Christian morals and principles, to protect you and your family and your finances and your future from the evils of the Democrat Party that seek to destroy it at every single turn. Every day we've got to come together and work and train and fight and pray, because we are going to need to continue to fight, so we can save the Republic. We have an after party here in just a minute. Catriots.com. If you're a member of the Catriot Club, fantastic. You can come on in and join us for the after party. If you're not a member of the Catriot Club, you can go to Catriots.com. You can join the Catriot Club, and then